Our story opens with a group of men putting women into crates. One of the thugs yells out, "Get in the damn crates now before I put a bullet in you." An arrow gets shot into the ground behind them. The thugs are confused. The arrow explodes, knocking the thugs backwards. Green Arrow begins shooting multiple thugs with arrows. One of the thugs yells out, "Shoot the son of a bitch." Green Arrow then puts down all the thugs. He opens the crate and tells the women to get to safety and find the police. Back at the arrow base, Diggle asks what happened, and Oliver responds, "Sex trafficking. All the women are safe and the traffickers are in jail." Diggle responds, "Good work." Oliver says it's a small victory for now, but even after 6 months, it seems the city is getting worse. Diggle says, "Hey man, at least now the criminals have someone to fear." Oliver responds, "It was never about putting fear into people. It's about giving the city a symbol of justice." Oliver then leaves to go home. We transition to a boat beginning to fill with water. Robert Queen yells to Oliver saying, "Wake up." Oliver wakes up and is confused, asking what's going on. Robert tells Oliver that the boat is sinking. Oliver runs up to the deck with Robert. Robert begins getting a life raft ready and tells Oliver to get in. Oliver asks where his mom Maura is. Robert responds saying she's coming. Oliver hears Maura screaming for help. Oliver rushes down to the cabin and yells for Maura. Maura yells to Oliver saying she's over here. Oliver sees Maura trapped under debris and begins trying to move the debris, but the cabin caves in and Maura gets swept away by the current. Oliver gets dragged down by the water as well. Oliver fights back to get back to the surface and reaches the surface. Oliver begins yelling for Robert. Robert sees Oliver and gets him into the life raft. Oliver begins telling Robert about Maura. Robert tells Oliver that it's okay. Oliver wakes up from the dream in a sweat. We transition to Oliver arriving at Queen Industries. Walter Steele greets Oliver. Oliver responds, "Morning, Walter. What is our agenda today?" Walter tells Oliver that one of the employees wanted to show them something that he has developed. Oliver asks which employee would that be. Walter responds, "I don't quite know the man's name, but I'm sure it's nothing important." Oliver tells Walter that anything that one of his employees developed is deemed important by him. Walter responds, "Okay then, Miss Smoke, will you send the gentleman up, please?" A man by the name of Michael walks in and greets Oliver and Walter. Michael tells Oliver and Walter that he has developed an arm that gives the same amount of function and feel as a normal arm, saying, "Let's say one of our veterans comes home from war and is missing his or her arm. Well, this would make them feel like they aren't missing it at all." Oliver asks Michael to demonstrate it for them. Michael says, "Sure thing," and has his husband come in. His husband comes in and puts on the arm. Michael says, "My husband lost his arm in Iraq and we haven't been able to find a good fit for him." Oliver responds, "I'm sorry to hear that and thank you for your service." Jack begins moving the arm. Walter asks, "How does it feel?" Jack responds, "Like the way my arm used to feel, and it feels like I have my arm back." Oliver says, "Terrific job, Michael. Walter, I want Michael's project fully funded and Jack can have the arm for free." Michael thanks Oliver and says he doesn't know what to say. Oliver responds, "You don't have to say anything, just keep up the good work." We transition to Detective Lance sitting at his desk. Commissioner Nidacurdo greets Lance saying he hasn't seen Dinah around much. Lance says she's been working in Bloodhaven. Why? Nidacurdo responds saying they could really use someone like her around because of how many scumbags the Hood is putting away. Lance responds, "Hey, don't give him no goddamn credit. He's a vigilante, not a police officer." Nidacurdo responds, "Sorry, I forgot your rivalry with him." Lance says it's not a rivalry. He's a criminal who needs to be put behind bars. Don't forget he was killing not too long ago. We transition to Green Arrow scoping at a warehouse. Green Arrow asks Diggle over comms, asking what's going on here. Diggle responds, "Reports of a gun smuggling ring at that warehouse." Green Arrow says he's going in. Green Arrow jumps down from the scaffolding and the warehouse is dark and dead quiet. Green Arrow, confused, asks Diggle, "Is this the right place?" Diggle responds, "According to the anonymous tip to the police." Green Arrow walks downstairs to see bodies across the floor with black arrows in them. Green Arrow says to Diggle that all the people are dead. Diggle asks what happened. Green Arrow tells him that someone killed them all with arrows, the same as his, just in black. The police arrive at the scene, and an officer asks Detective Lance who did this. Detective Lance says it looks like the Hood's killing again. One of the officers responds saying that the arrows are black and the Hood's is green. Lance responds saying maybe the son of a bitch ran out of green paint. Put a warrant out for the Hood's arrest. Green Arrow looks on from the rafters and tells Diggle that he's being hunted by Lance. Oliver arrives back at base, and Diggle greets him saying nothing like getting hunted by your ex-girlfriend's dad. Oliver says we need to figure out who killed those people, because whoever they are, they're trying to frame me. We transition to Malcolm Merlin at a press conference. He says, "People of Star City, I'm sure you've heard the reports of our so-called vigilante known as the Hood has returned to his habit of killing criminals. Now, as my duty as mayor, I'm assembling a task force led by Detective Lance to hunt down this killer. Malcolm walks off stage to let Lance speak. Tommy asks, Dad, are you sure about this? Hunting down the hood. Malcolm responds, Tommy, I'm the mayor. I have to let the people feel safe. Tommy says, alright then, I've got to go. I'm going to have lunch with Oliver. We transition to Oliver sitting in his office. Tommy walks in. Tommy greets Oliver by saying, have you seen Dad's speech? Oliver responds, no. What is it about? Tommy says he's assembling a task force to take down the hood. Oliver responds saying, yeah, that's good. That psychopath needs to be stopped. Tommy asks, so where are we going for lunch? Oliver says, let's go to Big Belly Burger. We transition to Oliver and Tommy leaving the restaurant. Tommy says, this was nice, man. You know, between me helping Dad and you running your company, we never really get to see each other often. Oliver says, yeah, let's do this more often. Tommy says to Oliver that when he was on that island, it was like the city lost its identity. It's like it died with Oliver. Oliver looks uncomfortable and Tommy apologizes, saying he was stupid to bring that up. Oliver says it's okay, he knows Tommy didn't mean any harm by him. Tommy says that he needs to go back to Malcolm's office and help. Oliver says, okay, see you later. We transition to a life raft in the ocean. Robert wakes up Oliver telling him to drink water. Robert looks over to see not enough water and food for both him and Oliver. Robert tells Oliver, son, I want you to know that I love you, and I know you will survive, and promise me that you will save Star City. Oliver, confused, asks Robert what is he talking about. Robert says, goodbye, son, and puts a gun to his head and pulls the trigger. Oliver mourns over Robert's body, but he looks up to see an island approaching. We transition to the Arrow base. Diggle tells Oliver that there's a report of a shootout in the glades. Oliver tells him to give directions on the way. Oliver drives off on a motorcycle. He arrives at the warehouse saying it's quiet. He walks into the warehouse to see more bodies with arrows in them. Green Arrow says he's here. No response from Diggle on the comms. Green Arrow says, Diggle, do you copy? Still silence on the comms. Green Arrow gets shot in the back with an arrow. He gets behind cover and moves against the wall to remove the arrow out of his back. Green Arrow regains his focus and listens for the archer. He shoots an arrow but misses. He says, where the hell is he? The archer shoots Green Arrow in the arm. Green Arrow runs for new cover but gets shot again in the leg. Green Arrow slides behind a pillar and pulls the arrow out of his leg. The archer begins walking closer to Green Arrow. Green Arrow runs out and fires back. The archer shoots an arrow straight down the arrow in Green Arrow's arm. Green Arrow falls to one knee. The archer approaches him and knocks him out. We transition to Oliver hanging from chains. He wakes up to see a dark hooded figure standing in front of him. Oliver asks, who are you? The archer responds saying, Oliver Queen. I can't say I'm surprised. When I think about it, it makes total sense that you would be the Hood. The archer grabs a sword off the table and approaches Oliver. The archer says, let's see how much pain you can take, Mr. Queen. He slices Oliver's stomach and Oliver screams in pain. We transition to Oliver on the island being strung up and tortured by militia. Oliver gets beaten, cut, waterboarded, and burned. We transition back to the archer torturing Oliver. The archer says, I see you have scars. These must be from the island. How did you kill your first person as the Hood, Mr. Queen? Oliver thinks about his first kill as the Hood, how the man was begging because he had a son. The archer asks, wasn't it one through the shoulder and one through the chest? The archer shoots Oliver in those places, and Oliver passes out from the pain. We transition to Oliver waking up from the pain, and the archer is gone. A door opens and Black Canary and Diggle walk in. Black Canary begins trying to get Oliver down from the chains. Diggle helps and gets Oliver down. Diggle asks, Oliver, can you hear me? Diggle tells Dinah that Oliver needs medical attention now. We transition to Dinah and Diggle getting Oliver on a table to operate at the Arrow base. Diggle begins to operate on Oliver. We transition back to the island. Oliver is trying to spearfish. He throws a spear but misses. He looks up to see birds circling him. He thinks how he can hunt animals. He grabs stick and fishing line and begins to craft his first bow. Oliver says, alright, let's figure this out. We transition back to the Arrow base. Dinah asks if Oliver is going to be okay. Diggle says he thinks so. He's strong and he's also too stubborn to die. Dinah says that's one way to describe Oliver. Diggle says, besides the circumstances, it was nice seeing you again, Dinah. Dinah responds, you too, Dig, but I have to get back to Bloodhaven. Let me know if anything happens. Diggle asks, sure thing, but when will we see you again? Dinah smiles and responds, when Ollie needs me to save his ass again. We transition to Oliver practicing archery on the island. He sees a fish in the water. He fires but misses. He goes into the water to try to retrieve his arrow. He grabs the arrow and begins walking back. but he steps on some coral. Oliver begins bleeding. He begins cutting off a piece of his shirt, and we transition back to the Arrow base. Oliver wakes up. Diggle tells him to be easy. Oliver asks what happened, and Diggle responds, "You got beat up pretty bad." Oliver says that he saw Diana. Diggle says, "Yeah, she helped me get you." Oliver asks, "Where is she?" And Diggle says she went back to Bloodhaven. Oliver gets up and says, "I need to find him." He knows I'm the Hood. Diggle says, "You need to rest, Oliver." But Oliver responds saying, "I'm fine. I can't let him keep killing people." We transition to Malcolm at the police station. Malcolm greets Quentin saying, "How's my favorite task force leader?" Lance responds saying he's fine, but he doesn't have any leads on the Hood. Malcolm says, "That's why I came to talk to you. Someone sent me an anonymous tip to the mayor's office." Lance asks, "Why didn't they send the tip here?" Malcolm responds, "I didn't ask, but the tip said they saw the Hood at an old packaging warehouse in the Glades." Lance says me and the team will go check that out ASAP. We transition to the night the Archer beat Green Arrow. After the Archer knocked out Green Arrow, he begins going around the room with Oliver's arrows and putting them into bodies and taking out his. He walks back to the Green Arrow and takes off Oliver's hood. The Archer, confused, recognizes Oliver. We transition to Oliver getting his arrows ready. He looks over at his suit and it's ripped to shreds. Diggle says, "I don't know how you wore that thing for so long." Oliver says, "It's the same hood I wore on the island, but it won't work here. I need something more durable and more protective if I'm going to fight this guy again." Diggle says, "You have the money, but who's going to make it?" Oliver responds, "I know someone who can." We transition to Oliver arriving at Queen Industries. He walks into Michael's lab. Michael greets him. Michael asks if Oliver is okay. Oliver responds, "Yeah, but I need you to do me a pretty big favor, but only if I can trust you." Michael says, "You can trust me, sir." Oliver throws his suit on the table. Oliver tells Michael that he's the Hood and that he needs him to make a new suit. Michael, shocked, touches the suit and looks at Oliver. Oliver tells Michael, "I'm not the killer, Michael. There's a copycat out there who needs to be stopped." Michael says he doesn't know what to say. Oliver tells Michael, "Don't say anything, just give me your trust and make a new suit." Michael says, "Right away, Mr. Queen." We transition to Lance arriving at the warehouse. Lance sees the bodies and says, "Jesus Christ, not again." One of the officers says that the arrows are green, sir. Lance radios, "This is Detective Quentin Lance, and if anyone sees the Hood, shoot to kill." We transition to Oliver working at the arrow base. Diggle asks, "Do you need me to go out with you?" Oliver says, "The police are hunting the Hood, so when I go to stop this Archer, you'll be across town leading them on a wild goose chase." We transition to Oliver on the island. He's sitting by a fire when all of a sudden he gets pulled back by an arm. Stranger yells, "Hurry, get us stopped." Oliver begins fighting back and he breaks free from the man's arm. The stranger yells, "Get his stuff and run." Oliver tackles the other stranger with his gear. He mounts the stranger and begins punching him. The stranger reaches for Oliver's eye, but Oliver grabs a rock and begins beating the man with it. The man stops moving and Oliver looks scared and shaken. He turns around to see the other stranger staring at him. The stranger says, "Holy shit, dude, just leave me alone." Oliver picks up his bow and arrow and he fires at the stranger and the arrow goes straight through the man's chest. We transition to Oliver arriving back at Michael's lab. Michael says that he got the suit done. Oliver responds saying thank you. Michael says he wanted to say that he never thought Oliver killed those people. Oliver says that he has killed people as the Hood, but he stopped after someone special to him showed him that there was a better way to protect the city. Michael says, "Okay, well here's the suit." Oliver sees the suit and Michael asks, "What do you think?" Oliver says it's perfect. We transition to Oliver scouting the glades at night. Oliver asks Diggle if he's seen anything yet. Diggle says he hasn't. A black arrow gets shot in Oliver, and Oliver tells Diggle that he's here and to create a distraction. Diggle sets off a controlled explosion on the other side of the city. Green Arrow and the Archer begin fighting. The Archer gets the upper hand, and he punches Green Arrow to one knee. The Archer tells Green Arrow that his mission is over, and that he's the one that failed the city. Green Arrow fights back, and he fires an arrow in the Archer's shoulder and knee. Green Arrow takes off the Archer's hood, and it's revealed to be Malcolm Merlin. Green Arrow is confused. Malcolm says, "Oliver, I was wondering when you would find out." Oliver takes off his hood and asks Malcolm why. Malcolm responds saying, "The city is sick, Oliver. It's a cancer. You were fixing it, but then you stopped." Oliver says, "I had to, Malcolm. I had to give the city hope and not fear." Malcolm says, "You are a stopgap from the eventual undertaking now. It will come, Oliver, and there's nothing you can do." Oliver asks, "What are you talking about?" Malcolm grabs an arrow and stabs himself through the heart. Oliver yells at Malcolm saying, "Tell me what the undertaking is." Malcolm tells Oliver, "You'll see." Malcolm dies and Oliver stands over Malcolm's body. Lance arrives at the rooftop and yells, "Freeze, you son of a bitch." Green Arrow says, "I'm not your enemy, detective. Malcolm Merlin was the copycat Archer." Lance asks, "Merlin, did you kill him?" Green Arrow responds, "No, he stabbed himself through the heart." Lance says, "Even if this copycat thing is true, I'm still going to hunt you down." Green Arrow responds saying, I know. Green Arrow then jumps off the roof. We transition back to the Arrow base. Dago asks, did you get him? Oliver responds saying, yeah. It was Malcolm Merlin. He killed himself, but before he did, he told me about something called the Undertaking. Dago asks, what's the Undertaking? Oliver responds saying, I don't know, but we're going to find out. We transition 3 months later. Oliver is working on his arrows at the base. He stops his work. He grabs his bow and fires behind him. Out of the shadows is Bruce Wayne holding the arrow which was aimed at his head. Bruce says, Oliver Queen, we need to talk. Oliver, confused, asks, Bruce Wayne, what are you doing here? Bruce says, I've been watching you for a while now, and I've got to say, I'm impressed. Oliver asks, how do you know who I am? Bruce says, because, Mr. Queen, I'm the Batman. Bruce then throws a batarang at the wall near Oliver. Oliver looks surprised and grabs the batarang. Oliver responds, you're him. Why have you been watching me? Bruce responds saying, because, Oliver, I need allies. Something is coming. I don't know what, but I have a feeling it's big. Oliver asks, how can I trust you? Bruce says, you can't, but we need to if you join me. Oliver says, okay. Oliver and Bruce then shake hands.